Hello, this is Dr. Caxno Perry. Thank you for taking the time to listen again today. You see, I want to read something to you from my book, The Hydroxychloroquine Debate. Recently, there's been a surge of infections with COVID-19. And as I remember telling people, at a conference 2 days ago, virtual conference, that the intentions follow a pattern. So when we don't have all the evidence to make a conclusion, we can still arrive at a reasonable conclusion that's parallel and close to the ultimate connection that will have been delineated or identified if all the pieces were present. That is called pattern recognition. It's used in artificial intelligence. Pattern recognition is used in game theory. It's used in many strategies. It's used in medicine when you don't have all the pieces together and you've got to arrive at a diagnosis. So when you look at the pattern that the FDA, the NIH, the CDC have put together for anyone who is able to think critically as opposed to thinking politically, I said this. Critical thinking involves an analysis of facts, evidence that is objective and not subjective. And sometimes to arrive at a reasonable conclusion that will have been obtained with 100% proof using all the available evidence necessary, you may not always have all that evidence. And what you have to go with sufficient evidence and a pattern that suggests, and to a high probability, that the same conclusion that you're arriving at is the same conclusion you will have arrived at anyway, if all the evidence was present. And when you look at the FDA's EUA for hydroxychloroquine, it recommends it be given when it has negligible or zero effect. I explained with a chart called the magnitude of a treatment effect, showing us that when you take people who have a very high recovery rate without the illness, patients between the ages of 0 and 30 or less have less than a 1% chance of being hospitalized if they get infected with COVID. And when you take that population as far as the age of 50, the rate of hospitalization in that group is less than 1%. So when you take that group and you are studying a drug, on a 1% chance of having a result. That's less than a p-value of 0.05. And it's horrible to take that group and be studying them. So let me share something with you from the book, page 67 of my book, The Hydroxychloroquine Debate. It's on Amazon. It's available on a Kindle version also. The FDA's EUA for hydroxychloroquine recommends it be given when it has negligible or zero effect. It will be interesting to know who drew up this EUA. When you look at the EUA for the FDA's HCQ, hydroxychloroquine use, it has no scientific basis, and much of the so-called evidence against the use of hydroxychloroquine in outpatients is prefabricated. Scientific evidence against the use of hydroxychloroquine, I said again, in outpatients is mostly, and I'm taking emphasis here, most of it is prefabricated, cognitively biased, and based on dangerously executed studies in hospitalized patients that have been so publicized, they drown out the use of hydroxychloroquine and instead monger fear in American physicians. On June 15, 2020, Dennis M. Hinton, the FDA's chief scientist, addressed a letter to Dr. Gary Disbrow, Deputy Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority, BARDA Division, granting Dr. Disbrow's request to revoke the EUA for hydroxychloroquine. Not one single study was cited in Dennis Hinton's letter. That's the chief scientist, regarding the research that enabled him to arrive at a reasonable conclusion regarding hydroxychloroquine's lack of efficacy in early COVID-19 infection. Any physician, healthcare professional, or concerned and critically thinking individual who understands science and the mechanism of action of hydroxychloroquine in COVID-19 will immediately see that the EUA itself was misleading in its indication for use